Morning.
Questions? I got nothing for you.
Saying enough of it.
I've seen way too much.
Erik, obviously there's been a lot of change in the conference. The competition appears to have stiffened. Your roster largely remains with the core from last season. Can you sort of give us your thoughts as maybe sort of taking an overview of where the Eastern Conference was when you left off versus now what we know about some teams at the top making major moves?
Hey, just all of that remains to be seen. The way I've looked at this, after several years of being in the league, you just want to come into camp having a team that you know is going to be one of those teams competing for a title, and we have one of those teams right now. I like our group. There's a lot to like about this group. I understand the fandom and the buzz and everything. Everybody wants change after every single year. You don't know if those changes will lead to anything on those other teams, but we like our group. We have one of the best playoff performers in this association. We have one of the best two-way centers and players in this entire association who literally can do everything you want a player to do defensively, and then offensively his game just continues to grow. We have one of the best, most skilled two guards in the league who was not healthy during our playoff run, and it doesn't matter what anybody else thinks. He definitely could have helped and made a difference, but he's also one of the more proven clutch players for the last 4 years in this game. We have one of the more decorated quarterbacks and proven winners in this league in Kyle, and I think we just have very proven, functional, and dynamic depth in all the positions that we need. So I'm looking forward to this group. That's not just coach speak, but I don't really care, what other people think about it. I just know when you have a team that can be one of those teams that's going to compete for a title, and we have one of those teams.
Coach, I guess one of the trade-offs for a successful run is you play deep into the season. The shortened off season, I guess, is one of the negatives with guys like Kyle and Jimmy, some older players. It's important to get them the rest in the off season. How are they feeling coming into camp, and obviously eager and ready to go?
I wish you could guarantee we play into June every single year.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's a great privilege, and that keeps players younger. I'm telling you, if you're done every year in April, you get old and stale pretty fast, and you start to look around and say, why am I playing? What am I doing this for? If you have a purpose and you have a vision and a mission of what you're playing for, and you have a team like this that's put together, that you can see that this can be one of those teams, that'll keep you young. And I feel that about Jimmy, Kyle, K-Love. They're rejuvenated and excited about this challenge ahead. You don't want to just sit on the couch and not have something to compete for. That seems like a miserable existence.
Tyler has had to deal with a lot of noise, whatever you want to call it, throughout his career. How do you feel like he's approached that throughout the years, especially this summer? And as far as maybe his playing off point guard, there's one point the roster's part of the construction. How do you feel like he's doing that area?
Yeah, and so there's like 2 or 3 things to unpack there, right? So if I start on one, just remind me on another. Look, he has experience dealing with all the noise. I think he's able to compartmentalize and use that as motivation. He has something bigger, to play for and compete for. I think that's where he's starting to transition, which happens as you get more experience and more years under your belt. I can relate to Tyler. Dealing with all that kind of noise early on in your career. I mean, it seemed like every offseason I was dealing with something very similar to what he's dealing with, and then hopefully you get to a point where the noise just quiets down, because you're providing that kind of value, and everybody totally gets it and understands it. But he's very mentally stable, and he's ambitious, and he has a terrific work ethic. So he's ready. He's used all of this as fuel. I don't blame him for that. I just know that he's going to be ready, for this season, and he wants to really help contribute. The last part of your question was what?
Ball handling duties.
Ball handling. Is he going to be point guard? I'm not going to put him out there day one and he's listed as the point guard. Will he handle quite a bit? Yes. In spots where he can be efficient and effective. He's really improved basically every facet of his offensive game. I'm not really concerned about that. His skill level is up there with anybody in this league at the perimeter position. And he will be able to, play without the ball, be effective in those situations. His ability to set up other guys has really improved as well. His shooting is as dynamic as anybody in the league. So he'll be able to find ways where he can be aggressive and be himself.
Tomorrow's going to be your first practice ever without UD on the roster. Nobody takes that role in the room, obviously, but how do you address that void of what he has brought for the last several years? It doesn't have to be multi-layered. Who takes on those responsibilities, and how do you kind of prepare yourself for not having that extension of you in the room anymore?
Yeah, that'll be an adjustment for sure. Probably more so for me than everybody else in the locker room. Teams transition. The guys are used to it, that you have different players, typically in the locker room, and UD's presence was so unique, that you just can't even compare it to any other situation in the league. And I've always known him to be in our locker rooms, and I've probably communicated with him more this summer than any other offseason, and that's probably both of us, going through this transition. He's going through a transition that's always tough for players. You always say athletes have two deaths, and one when your playing career is over, and he'll be remarkable in this next chapter, but it definitely is a transition. I know he would love to be there for this first practice, which I think is great for perspective. Sometimes you put enough years under your belt, and then you might be trying to ease into training camp. UD would do anything just to go full speed and get right after the competition and all that. In terms of the leadership void, that's the part that I want to be open-minded to, and also excited to see how different guys step up and fill that void. Bam obviously is somebody that comes to mind right away, because he's drafted by us. He has 7 years now in our culture. He lives it, breathes it, leads it, all of that, and that's so necessary to be a locker room a leader in our locker room. It's much different than being a leader in any other locker room. Jimmy will continue to lead in his way, and he has a way of pushing productivity in a way that I love. That's just unique, and we need that. And K-Love also, in a short period of time, really stepped up and became a connector in our locker room, and you need all of that. And I'm open to other guys, and going to challenge them, to lead at all levels. It's not just incumbent on one person. It's not incumbent on me, UD, Bam, Jimmy. You have to have leadership at all levels on great teams, and that's what I'm looking forward to seeing out of this group.
Good morning, Erik. Josh Richardson is coming back. How is it different from the player that left the Miami Heat years ago? How did that conversation go when you talked about bringing him back, and then what do you expect from him this season?
Yeah, it was one of those special conversations because we were able to revisit some of the things that we talked about right when he left. One of the things that he was a big piece, obviously, to get the transformative piece, for us, and you take that as an incredible compliment as a player. sometimes it sucks in this business, to be involved in a move like that. But we had invested so much in him. He had bought into so much in our culture, and he grew so much from being a second round pick that you're not really sure that's going to make it to actually being a force defensively. I believe his last year he even was our leading scorer, and played a lot of different roles, 2, the 3, point, all of those things, and just really grew in our player development program. But I mentioned that, guys like him, you probably don't want to hear this now, but at some point we'll probably be calling you again to bring you back. Just tuck that away somewhere. You're a competitor, so right now that's the last thing you want to hear. But he did remember that conversation, and we were fortunate enough to be able to bring him back. And he's just fit right back into the culture and the work and all of that. I think you're going to see a very dynamic two-way player. He's improved with his experience, but the ability to defend multiple players and really be disruptive is unique. It's going to fit right into our system. We value what he does, and I think the versatility of his offensive game will fit. He can play with a lot of different combinations and units and be effective. He can play 3 positions, and his shooting really is, since he was here, it's just continued to improve, and that happens a lot of times with more years in the league.
Morning, Eric.
Morning.
You talked about the short off season because we make a run like you did, but for you, there's been no off season. You go to the FIBA championships. I mean, what has kept you going? Because it seems like from the last time we saw you to right now, you're the same person.
Yeah. Well, first, I love it. This is an incredible honor, and one, it was a privilege. If you could just guarantee that I would have a short summer, or any of us would have a short summer every year, and we could play till June, we're all signing up for that if you're a real competitor. I love this game. I want to maximize as many of these experiences as I possibly can. To be involved in the USA basketball program was an honor of a lifetime. And when they call, sometimes you're not really expecting it, and it caught me off guard. I committed to it right away, and I always will. So that was a really fun experience. I know it didn't end the way we wanted it to, but from a professional growth standpoint and learning FIBA basketball and getting to know new players and work under a different staff to serve and play a role that's a little bit different than what I've been doing here, that's exactly what I wanted at this point in my career, to stretch and do something different. And hopefully it'll make me better for this locker room this year. But it was a fun summer, and I was able to get some time away. I was able to go out west for some significant time with the family.
So you said after the Denver series last year that it didn't feel like a series that was going to inform, what you did going forward. But now that you've had time to reflect and digest that entire run, what were your takeaways that might actually now inform your focus in camp?
Yeah, we have to get better for sure. Every team says that, but if you have multiple years of playoff experience, you go through the gauntlet of those 7-game series, that's very specific and relevant information you're getting back. And that's why, one of the reasons why I'm encouraged and excited about this group. We have some collective experiences together, some shared pain and success, and that usually leads to the most explosive type of learning that you need. And yeah, we did have some takeaways. We certainly want to approach this regular season. We had a lot of things come at us last regular season, and in the end, I think that helped us, all that adversity. But we certainly want to be more cohesive, more efficient, more consistent to the game that we showed in the playoffs throughout the regular season. And then each month, are we improving our game? We take great pride in that. That's not an easy thing to do when you start competing and you start to lose track of also improvement. And we want to make sure that we're checking those boxes. But we're going to approach this regular season with intent. we really wanted to have everybody approach this the right way, to help prepare us for those moments of truth in the playoffs.
Erik, a lot of so-called prognosticators never mention you guys before the season starts, yet you've been to 2 NBA finals, 2 of the last 4 years, obviously. What is it that you look for in the DNA of a Miami Heat player that enables you to add to your roster, to find guys like a Gabe Vincent or Max Strus?
Well, we've talked about it enough, about the Heat culture and the type of players, that we like to get. It's been well documented. I think over the years now, we're just so increasingly more on the same page. Our scouting department does a tremendous job of getting players that they know that have an opportunity to fit with us. Well, we're not for everybody, and that's okay. That's okay. But there is a particular type of personality and player and competitive spirit and work ethic that fits with us. And we've really fine-tuned that process. So even during the summer, the type of people we come in here, it's Hunger Games, in July. But that's the kind of preparation that we like. And then the prognosticators. Yeah, we have guys that have chips on their shoulders, and I think that's a good thing to motivate you initially, but eventually you get to a deeper motivation. And that's trying to come together for something that's bigger than yourself, to come together for something really special that you cannot accomplish on your own, that you're really going to have to rely on other people to do it. And then you feel accountability to do your job, to be able to contribute. That's deep, true motivation to compete for a title. We have a lot of guys that have gotten to that point in their careers. And as far as, the predictions and all that stuff, when I say that, it's probably flying right by everybody's ears, that you just want to have one of those teams that and I know. I have experience in that locker room. Nobody can guarantee who's going to win this thing at the end of June, but you want to have a team that you're walking in, that you can be true and saying, hey, we're one of those teams, and throw whatever it is. How many of those teams? It's never as many as you think, but you also know when you're not one of those teams going into training camp. And then, that piece of paper, the title's not won on a piece of paper of predictions or who's going to have the best odds. I would love to see that from the last, 30 years, whoever's going in training camp, the Vegas odds, and if that actually plays out. I've just seen it in a lot of other ways, from that. And we have enough motivation, we have enough, everything we need to be one of those teams, and that's what excites all of us as competitors. You just want to have that kind of chance going into a year.
Just seeing what Jovic was able to do in Summer League and with Serbia, what have you thought of his growth in days? What do you see as maybe his role this upcoming season?
Yeah, the summer was everything that he needed to do. And, it was unfortunate, but also fortunate for him to be able to go through some of those injuries last year. He was dealing with minor things, but they held him out of action and held him out of our player development program. So really, I view this almost as his rookie year, but he had an incredible ramp up to a rookie year that most rookies don't get. So he spent the entire month of June really preparing for Summer League, and that was the conditioning, but also preparing his body, for the expected practices that he would do. And he was able to go through all the training camp practices. The first 3 games of the Summer League, you could see his skill level right away, and why he was such a promising prospect. And then was able to finish out Summer League, get probably 3 or 4 days of rest, and then head right to Serbia for training camp. And he had the great privilege to play for a Hall of Fame FIBA coach. This guy's a legend, and he values a lot of things similar to what we value. So you have to prove yourself from a physical standpoint, competitive standpoint, and certainly from a defensive standpoint to play under that coach. So I just wanted him to have the experience of going through the 3-week training camp and it ended up being a lot more than that, as we know. He was able to earn a starting spot, and really became kind of a connector for that team. They had a lot of veteran players, and he was able to show his playmaking, his passing, his vision, his size, to be able to do multiple things. And I think a lot of that can carry over, this year. As far as his role, we'll have to see. That's why I'm excited about training camp. I wish we could start, I guess soon instead of doing, this session. But we don't want to get out in the wood. We want to see it. I know a lot of guys have gotten better this summer, and he's one of the top guys on the list that have gotten significantly better.
Typically, you could just say an off season's a bunch of noise, you come in, you move forward. This season had tangible discussion of Heat players, guys in your locker room you're gonna see today and in camp. Do you have to do something to sort of talk to them about, there were very public talks this summer that I can't recall as much, probably 3 or 4 players in your locker room, some have already addressed that. Does it have to be a little bit different approach because it's sort of undeniable that there was tangible discussion this summer?
No, I think that has increased exponentially in the last decade. We all have short memories. Last summer there was a lot of movement and there was a lot of discussion and a lot of noise, and everybody wants to make a change. It seems like every summer there is that, and the fan bases are very passionate, and everybody seems to have a little bit of impatience, during the summer. But it is noise. I know I've used that word a lot, but I can relate to the guys that have gone through that. I think it's good for players to go through that at some point in their careers. I do, because you have to learn how to compartmentalize, and 90% of it is usually just BS and noise, but it is a business. We all have to be reminded that it's a business, and you have to find a comfort level within the chaos, and it takes a discipline to be able to focus on the task at hand, and Pat uses this phrase all the time, and it is so true. You keep the
Main thing, the main thing.
Yeah, everybody, you could all say it, right? It is so true, though. You keep the main thing the main thing. You focus on the task at hand. We have a beautiful, amazing opportunity as a group to compete for a title. That is the main thing. Within that, you will be dealing with a lot of chaos in the business, and it is a discipline that I think should be taught when rookies come into the league, how to compartmentalize and manage the business and all of the noise and rat race stuff that you'll hear on the outside. But at least our guys have gotten a doctorate on that.
Last 2. Seems like Wayne was just here playing. What's it like to have him back, and how did that all come to be?
Yeah, Wayne and I have kept in touch every single year. We've constantly texted throughout the seasons, and he's a perfect fit. I've gotten to this point in my career now that I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing. It just makes me feel older. That I've had a lot of former players now that have retired that have reached out about getting into coaching. So the list was a lot longer than I anticipated. And Wayne was on that list, and he reached out, right away, and that was a name that when I brought it up to everybody in the building, it was like everybody said yes and said it was just the perfect fit. And that's from the training staff to upstairs to the weight room staff to the coaching staff, and that really speaks to the impression that he left on everybody here as a pro's pro, and somebody that I think is a great example also in our player development program. That's not just the young players that come in. He had already been 8 years in and reinvented himself and really had his best years after the age of whatever that was, but that typically doesn't happen, and it really is a credit to him. So we're excited about that. Also, bummed to lose AC, but I'm also thrilled, for AC. It was a tremendous opportunity. It was one that when we talked about it and worked through it, at some point when I talked to him, I said, you can't turn this down. This is a really good deal, and really it's a credit to how much he had committed to the players here, to helping them grow and get better. And he did it with such a selfless spirit that eventually the league is going to recognize that, and they did with AC, and really happy for him, and I'm excited that he's not in the Eastern Conference, that he's out there in the West, so I can continue to cheer for him.
Last question.
Hi, Coach. Nice to see you again. I want to ask you about something that probably is not the main thing right now, but it's one of the new things this year, the NBA tournament in Vegas. It's very close. It's just 1 month away, 1 month and a half. And as you said, the team is a team that used to grow during the season. It's a target, it's an objective for this year to compete there, to be in Vegas.
I'm all for it. I think it'll be fun. I don't know how it's going to turn out, just like everybody else. Nobody else knows how it's going to turn out. But I have trust in the league, and this is not something that they just dumped on us. This has been worked through the competition committee for several years. I've been hearing about this for a long time. I've been able to work through all the motions. Your initial reaction to anything is, no, let's just keep it the way it is. But that's not how things grow and improve in life or in business or in sports. I think we are one of the best examples of being open-minded and being a beneficiary of a league change with the plan. We didn't feel like we were playing, team last year. I think a lot of it was circumstantial, but nobody really cares about injuries or missed games and all. So we had to go through that route, and it ended up being one of the most amazing experiences I've had in this association. And so I'm looking forward to seeing what this, can become. I know it'd be fun to play in Vegas, for something competitive, a championship, at any point during the season. It's not going to be the same value as at the end of the year, but that'll be fun. All right,
Coach.
thank you.